Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Creators Grab Coffee. This is episode, what are we at now? 36? 35? 36? We got Adam from the Coelement on with us. Another person from Winnipeg. We're slowly going through our Winnipegians.
It's actually Winnipeggers. That's what we prefer. But I'll take Winnipeggans.
Okay.
Whatever. I'm not picky.
I applied the Torontonian to Winnipegonian.
That's exactly what you did. Spoken like a true Torontonian.
So Adam, I guess let's start off with something easy. Just tell us how you came up with the name, the Coelement.
It's a weird question. It's a weird name, isn't it? Yeah. So when I started the company with two other partners, this is almost 18 years ago now. I'm dating myself. One of the other owners, one of my other partners, was a real marketing guy. And so he wanted to, there was a play on words. So co was all about like collaboration. It was about creativity. There was all these words that he had. And so there was this methodology behind it. And I think there was a magazine at the time. It was an advertising magazine. And they had this sort of section called co. And it was like co underscore. And so we sort of played off that, and then we came up with the Coelement. Actually, the first name of our company was actually Elemental Motion Media. That's why we rebranded, because it was like, man, no one wants to type this in their email address, right? So it's like, yeah, it's a funny story, but that's how it was, and I had really nothing to do with the name at all. And then as years went on, I had the opportunity to buy my business partners out. Because they didn't want to continue with it, and I wanted to continue with the business. And that was probably like almost 7 years ago now. And we just had brand recognition in the market. And I didn't really want to change the name because everybody knew our name. We had a pretty big client list at the time and a growing client list, and people were getting to know us. So part of the reason why I paid so much was to keep the name, and I think it was worth it. It was a huge gamble at the time when I was going to buy the company. I'm like, oh my God, I'm paying all this money just to keep this name, and I don't even like it. But it was worth it. It was worth it because when I bought it, the phone kept ringing. People knew us as Coelement, so I just kept it. So that's kind of the backstory behind it.
You had two other partners. One of them was focusing more on the marketing. What was the other person focusing on?
She was more web and interactive. And there were two super talented people. I still know them. Yeah, they both just sort of wanted to go in a different direction. And my background, which you're probably going to ask about, I'm not sure if you're going to ask about it, but was always production. So it made sense for me to keep it and just continue on with it. So
I've always been curious how it would be when you're starting a business with several partners. It's usually a little bit easier to buy other people out when there's a business that deals with like a lot of product, a lot of employees, and it's a little bit easier to quantify that. But when you're doing something that's like a service, it's harder to quantify like that. Like how did that process go for you guys in terms of like defining the assets of Coelement? Was it just the name, or was there what else was there behind it?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. And I mean, this, do you guys know who Blair Enns is?
Yeah. From Two Bobs podcast, right?
They talk about this all the time, and it's really interesting. It's an interesting conversation because really what it is in marketing is sort of, or creative companies like us, where our value is like our creativity, right? It's really about perceived value. It's perceived value. Or sometimes it's a book, right? So advertising agencies, traditionally, if they're going to sell, they'll have a big book of clients, right? And they'll sell that book of clients, right? And typically, in the way that, the agencies work is that they have a roster of retainer clients. So it's guaranteed business over, year after year. And it's easy to sell something like that because you go, well, X client is $30 million a year, and then you add it all up over a year, and you say, well, my business is worth this, buy me, right? But how do you do that with a company like, back to your question, how do you do that with a company like ours and yours as well, right? Where it's like project to project. You don't know what next month looks like. I mean, if you guys have retainer clients, I would love to hear about that because I want more of them. But it just doesn't seem to exist. It just doesn't seem to exist anymore in what we do. So it's month to month. It makes So yeah, how did we figure that out? I don't know. It was a guessing game. It was a total guessing game. Yeah.
Well, I figured you guys probably looked at your
Yep.
year over year and said, okay,
Yep.
we roughly make this much every year. It's probably kind of consistent once you get past a certain level anyways, right? Yeah.
Projection
too.
based.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some slow growth in there. And you know, the opportunity to grow, how much, I guess, market penetration did our name have in the market, right? So I was like, basically for me, it was like, there was no guarantees. Like all those clients, if he wanted to just go, you know, start his own business and say he didn't want me in it and he wanted to just start another production company, he could have pulled all those clients with him if he had better relationships. So it was really all based on kind of relationships. What was fortunate for me in my case is that he went to a totally different industry. So a lot of those clients were kind of left going, you know, well, we still need service and we still work with you, so we'll call Coelement. And it just seemed to work out like that. And actually, I maybe lost like 2% of the clients. You know, they went to other production companies, but yeah.
But if it was like that, you could have kind of just
Totally.
started your own company,
Totally.
different company.
And actually,
different
that's a really good point, because that was a huge lesson I think I learned, was like this business, or the business that we're in anyway, is just so reliant on relationships. Like the relationships, the human-to-human relationships that you had with those clients, and they enjoyed working with me. And that's why they kept working with me, right? It really wasn't about the whole company or what the brand was. It really was about if they liked me or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was always curious about how some service-based companies, like you mentioned, would be selling the book of clients of, like, say 30 clients that they're going to be transferring as part of the value of the business, because clients are not yours to give really to someone that often, because the one thing Dario and I have learned is that there's no such thing as a 100% loyal client that will always be there, because circumstances always change for them. Imagine that one ad agency you were saying had like a list of 30 clients. If all of a sudden the change in leadership is there for the organization, maybe that client doesn't like that leader, immediately that value goes out the window.
Especially in today's world where people stay at their jobs for like 6 months to a year, then they dip and they job hop. Like, that wouldn't work at all.
When you get into big agency work, you know, a company is typically invested in millions of dollars with that company, and they're really, really like attached in like a lot of different departments. So actually moving something on that level of that scale probably would cost more in BS or, you know, inefficiencies, right, than to actually transfer over. It's a big deal to change agencies for a big, you know, for like a multi-million-dollar company. But yeah, you're right. Like I think with the small, I think the big agency seems to be like, there's still a lot in the US, still a lot in Toronto. But, you know, you're starting to see, it's so fragmented now. I mean, you're starting to see these micro agencies pop up with 3 people. I mean, video companies are really popular for having, you know, 3 to 10 employees. That's like sort of seems to be that magic number, right? Yeah, it's interesting how it's all changed, but we've stayed quite small actually. Like that actually was a conscious decision that I made when I bought the company, that I wanted to keep it small and change the model. I didn't want to be a 10-person company. I mean, there's competition in the city, you know. And God bless them. I love them all. They're all awesome guys, and I know them. But they just want to build a different company. They, you know, some of these guys, you know, they want to have a big team. They want to build teams around that, and they want to have people come full time. I've built mine completely different than that. My model's very different.
We're kind of trying to lay the foundation for that as well, because the same as you, when you're dealing with companies such as ours, I feel like a small, nimble, skeletal like team of people is probably better than when you expand and you have a much bigger team, because again, you're dealing with in an industry where we also haven't cracked the retainer model, and almost no one we've spoken to has figured it out. So it leaves a lot of uncertainty, right? Like, I mean, we're in the process of, like, this year we hope to hire our first employee, and like we're kind of scared shitless about that, because it's like it's a big responsibility. Like, what happens like if you can't pay them? Like, that's that's the terrifying idea. If it's Kyrill and I, it's like, we'll always figure something out. Worst case, we go freelance somewhere to make a little extra money. But like, if you have someone else, you're responsible for them too, right? And like, especially with the types of projects we always end up with, it just feels like a smaller team just works a lot better compared to like having a ton of people, because again, the bigger you get, the more bureaucracy gets involved, the more inefficiencies start to happen. And again, in an industry like ours, where it's like project to project, a lot of uncertainty, you got to be very flexible, you got to be nimble and be able to adapt, right?
Just what you're saying, I feel like I identified that when I bought the company, and I was like, I kind of saw that's where it was going. I mean, when we started, like over 17, 18 years ago, we were probably the first like small production company of 3 people in the whole city. I mean, it was only the big production companies where they had, everybody went to that one production company, and there was like 20 people that worked there. And it was like, now, I mean, from that time until now, we must have like 20 here now or more. I mean, every time I'm on social, I mean, so a new one pops up, and they're all doing really, really great work, which is great, but it makes it, you're right, it makes it really tough to scale, because in a way, it's almost, it's like turns our work, or our type of work into like a commodity. Like there's so much choice, which drives down prices, which like, you know, it's really interesting. I don't know if you guys have noticed that in your market.
There's a ton of companies in our market.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
you guys
Toronto's
would have
obviously
way
a lot
more,
bigger than Winnipeg, but
Dario, it's funny because he was saying like, oh, it started from like 1, and now it's
That
like,
is.
oh my God, it's 20. And for him, that's a lot.
Hey man,
But for
yeah,
you,
yeah.
it's like,
20 here is a
it's
lot.
like 20
trust
within
me.
a
That's
block.
Like and we're a very small market compared to
I can imagine.
compared to Toronto. So you can imagine the competition that brings, and like, you know, your proposals, I find you have to be so competitive now, and so many add-ons and so many discounts, and like, oh my gosh, it's crazy, the discounts, right?
Oh, even at your level still, you're getting a lot of those requests.
You know, this other company's doing it for this, and they're giving us this. And
they're price shopping.
they try to play the bargain. Oh yeah, price buyers. So yeah, I mean, there we can get into that. That's a really interesting conversation versus value pricing or price buying. Have you guys ever got into that conversation before? This is a Blair Ends thing.
We've touched upon it on the podcast, but
so yeah, we deal with that. But I whenever I get into those conversations, I always go like, so what am I working with? I always ask them, what am I working with? What's your budget? What am I working with? And then from there, I kind of assemble the menu. It's like, well, you know, it's like at a restaurant. Well, you know, with that money, you could get this dish, and that dish. But if you want that, it'll be a little extra.
So it's not like you're offering the same service at a discount. You're offering the service that is afforded by the client. You know, basically a customized solution. You know, you're not going to push on them 8K video content when they can only afford the resources for the 4K crews I mean,
totally.
This analogy is not 100% accurate, but I'm just trying to be I'm just trying to be relatable with it.
You know, I always like to pitch them more so. Yeah, there's a pricing element as well. There's a pricing co-element of everything, but I like to pitch them more so on like they're really buying our expertise.
That's really
There's obviously
good.
the value part of it as well, but it's like, and I really push for the expertise part of it, and I go into like, listen, like this is what I like, down to like the questions I ask them, and they recognize that right away, because a lot of the other people that they say they talk to just give them numbers and that's it, but I like to drive them through my sales funnel and make sure they know what they're getting into. And I mean, I guess luckily we're in a market like Toronto where there's a lot more leads coming in. And even though there is a lot more competition in terms of video vendors here as well, I feel like realistically, like our company is not actually dealing with, let's say there's like 50 here. We're probably dealing with, I would say maybe 5 when we pitch for our projects, compared to maybe with you, it might be different, but because they got to narrow it down, and usually they only go through like the first 2, maybe 3 pages of Google anyway. So from there, you can kind of nail down and say, I know they're probably not going to go for that guys, and they're not going to go for these other guys because they're way past their budget. We fall within this range, so I know I'm dealing with these other guys.
It's very interesting to hear this, because your market is obviously a lot bigger than ours. Because we're probably more like, and I tell clients this, like, we're not for everybody. Like, we're probably a more expensive option Like I give them a base. I say we don't really do anything for less than $10,000. I made like that's it. You know, so right now if we're having this sales conversation, you know, if they're thinking, well, you know, the last guy did it for $2,400, it's like immediately that conversation ends, right?
Go to them.
So I made a commitment a while back to say we're not going to take on any projects less than $10,000. And then there's only a few, probably a handful of these production companies I've been telling you about that really probably do projects at that level, right? So whenever we put in a proposal here locally, we're always competing against the same people, right? It's the same people, right? So it's very interesting in a small market how that's been kind of challenging, but like the value conversation is interesting. Like when getting on those sales calls, I'm glad this is going in a sales conversation because it's probably most of what I do and most of what I can really talk about. Like my background, actually, when I in TV, I was a motion designer. Actually, like I worked for AOL Time Warner actually down in the States for about 2 years. I worked for CanWest Global. I don't know if you remember specialty channels, the global specialty channels. Do you remember Fox Sports World Canada, Mystery, Deja Vu? Do you ever remember those? Like how old are you guys?
That might be before our time.
I just know Discovery, History, YTV, you know?
So I don't know how old you guys are, but anyways.
We're from the when Sugar was on YTV era. That's our time.
Yeah.
That's how you date. That's
a good way to date us.
So that's where I cut my teeth in the industry. I started as a motion designer, and then I was brought on by CanWest Global to help with branding for 6 digital TV stations. So we actually got to do all the station IDs and branding and motion design branding for all those stations. So I was able to sort of oversee that as a designer. I worked with a lot of outsourced production companies, and I worked for Global for some time, and then I did a stint down in AOL for about 2 years, which was a really cool experience actually to go down there. It was actually right when AOL, do you remember You Got Mail? It was probably before your time too.
You Got Mail.
Yeah. I worked down there for a while, and it's right when everything was transitioning to digital, which is an interesting time. And then I got really lonely down there because I was a lonely Canadian. That's what they called me. They called me the lonely Canadian. So I was the only Canadian that worked there. There was like guys from like like Brazil and like China, all these amazing motion designers that were brought in from all over the world. It was an amazing experience.
You couldn't make friends. He's the only one.
Yeah, that's exactly.
They're all like, what is this?
I don't know. That's like they had no idea even. Oh, Canada is just cold there, and you live in igloos and stuff. And I'm like, man, really?
It's always the assumption.
First of all, that's just in the winter, okay?
Maybe in Winnipeg, but not in Toronto.
And then after that, I moved back, and I got engaged to my wife that I'm married to now, and we went out to Edmonton. I worked for Teletoon and Family Channel out there. They're now in Toronto. Actually, they moved to Toronto, and I did motion design there, and then I did freelance, and then I ended up starting the company from there. But where was I going before that whole stint, telling you about where I came from?
Wait, well, first you wanted to kind of give a little bit of background. You were talking about how you
because that's what I do
over the sales and business side of things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's what Creative Scribe Coffee is mostly for, is like the business side of things. Because there are so many resources. There are so many resources online about technicals, and gear is constantly changing.
Brilliant.
So Dario and I didn't want to get into the habit of talking about what light do you want to use, what camera do you want to use, but nobody ever talks about the business of video production. No one ever talks about it. So that's what the goal of the podcast is.
So let's focus on the value side of selling, because that's kind of what you looked a little excited about that. So let's go into that.
I mean, I think bringing up this company, growing this company, I've really had to become a really, really good producer and really, really understand how to work with a client and how to hold their hand through the process really, really well, and do it in a charismatic way, do it in a creative way, and just really a nurturing way, right? That's something that I've worked really, really hard on. is getting that down properly, because I think this can be a little bit intimidating to people, right? And there are companies that these businesses need a video done, and they'll go to a company and they'll just throw numbers at them or whatever. But what we really try to do, or what I try to do in the sales side, is really say, listen, this whole process, I'm gonna lay it out to you right now. This is how the whole process is gonna go, and I'm gonna walk you through the whole thing. And I actually have a diagram that we've actually designed that I bring up, that I kind of articulate how the flow is gonna be, right? And where they'll be involved and where we'll sort of disappear for a while, and then where we'll come back. And when I find that I articulate that all the way through, get such an awesome response from clients.
We have the same thing on our end. Not a diagram. We have a couple slides to kind of go through everything. But I think the way you described it that's almost identical to what we do. And again, you just want to make sure that they understand that you're going to be there, and just, like you said, guide them through the whole process, but also show them that, look, you're not going to, because a lot of times I've actually found that a lot of people that come to us might have had bad experiences, actually, because a lot of the questions they ask me, it's stuff that I was like a slide or two away from answering, right? In terms of like, am I going to be there to kind of for that particular stage, just to go over that with them? How do they get to input their ideas? Like, what's the revision process like? I feel like a lot of other companies might have actually created a negative experiences for a lot of clients, right? And that might be due to just not knowing how to be a good producer, or just not being good at it entirely, right? Like, because like you said, being a producer is a lot. You gotta like that interaction that you have with the client. Because I find that, like, when I produce, I really get excited. I love talking to them about the whole video stage process. I love talking about that stuff. I had a meeting before this one where we were having our first pre-production meeting. I was having a blast. I was late to this because that went over a little bit, right? But if you don't have that as a producer, you're just not gonna provide a good experience, and you're most likely not gonna provide a good video, because that's integral to that role.
Yeah, if you're not excited about the work you're creating with your client, how do you expect your client to have any enthusiasm as well? And to your point, Dario, unfortunately, like, a lot of clients, they have bad experiences because they didn't know what the video production process was like beforehand. So their first experience with a company was essentially someone who didn't do it right, didn't explain it properly to them. And because of that, the client felt like they were completely shut out of it. I sometimes think to myself, if I wanted to go and say, get a website done, and I had no knowledge of it, and you go to a company, it's like, hey, I need a website. What is the process? And then someone just says, here's, it's going to cost you $10,000. I'm like, I don't know what is the process? How does it work? You just throw a number at me, And that's what a lot of leads must feel like when they come to a video production company. They want to understand, and you as a producer and a business owner, it's your responsibility to explain it properly.
I think we could actually tie this back earlier in terms of there's a lot of companies that have popped up, and I think the reason for all these experiences is because a lot of these companies are actually not companies. They're just freelancers, right? So, I mean, we see them often. There's a ton of people here where it's like they mostly are a wedding company, and they're trying to get into corporate, but they can't. And you could kind of see based on the work that they get. Nothing against them. It's just corporate is a different animal entirely. But the type of work that they get is very, it's okay. It's nothing special. It's not a big client or whatnot. But I sometimes hear this with those people where they kind of complain, and not just them, but even, let's say, for example, someone that is in another creative industry. If they're a freelancer, a lot of times they complain about the client, and they complain about a lot of things that they really shouldn't be complaining about, because you kind of got to be that person for them that kind of guides them in the right direction. And I think a lot of the time they just don't understand how to do that, right? So.
A lot of times, like I'll say less sophisticated clients, that meaning less sophisticated with their understanding of production. A lot of times they don't really want to know about this whole process. I actually find I have to change my conversation. So if I'm working with a digital, like an agency of, like, say, a 30 to 80 person agency, my conversation with them is a completely different conversation than, say, a not-for-profit or, like a startup or something. And I think really, really good sales in what we do is about knowing how to approach those different clients, because they're all different. And you really can't, it's not a one size fits all when it comes to that. So, for an example, like an agency, when I work with a large agency here in the city, we're sort of their go-to production company. I mean, I'm always talking to the creative director. There's a project manager there. There might be an art director there, right? So I have to be able to navigate and understand what each of these people needs from this project, right? Project manager is going to be all about deadlines. It's going to be all about timelines. How long is it going to take you? What do you need from us? Things like that. The art directors wants to be on set. They want to understand that we can sort of execute that. The creative director wants to know as a producer that I can execute his vision, right? So with, say, smaller companies like startups that have never done a video before, or like a not-for-profit, what you're really doing in that sense is you're teaching them how to work with a producer, what a producer actually does. So when I talk to them, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be your producer on this project. This is what my role is going to be. This is how I'm going to take care of you. Like, I'm going to come up with these creative ideas on how to get your message across. So these are the conversations that you're going to have. So I think knowing, and I think that just comes with years of experience, because I've been able to work with, some of the larger agencies. I've worked with agencies out of the city that have 200, in the States that have like 200 people before. So I've been able to navigate some of those and have those experiences, right? And that just comes with experience. But knowing how to tailor your conversation in the sales conversation is super important. Because what I do find is that some of these production companies, they want to systematize, right, when they start, because they think they have to have systems in place. So we have to formulate this whole thing, right? And then they just start throwing that thing out at every single client. And it's not, you sometimes have to be a little bit nimble there. But that's just me. That's just how I do business. So
there has to be a skeletal structure to your process where, obviously in the video production world, it's pre-production, production, and post. But those are broad. And like you said, you have to tailor it to every client, every lead that comes through, because their situation is always going to be different. You can go into the one size fits all category if you want, but that's usually in volume based selling, when you're just trying to get hundreds of clients coming in for that one specific service. But but that's only for like that type of video, for example. Like if it's a product video, you need a 30-second ad, you can productize that. Whereas in our situation with value based pitching, sometimes a client needs a social media video. Sometimes a client needs a web ad. Sometimes they need an internal video. You can't have a one size fits all solution for a different deliverable and for different clients. So you nailed it 100% on the head. You have to be able to be nimble.
How to talk in those different circles and how to guide them. And some groups are going to be overwhelmed by certain things. Some people are going to be turned off by that, right? Agencies are going to be a lot more sophisticated, way more layers to what's happening there. They want all the details, right? They want to know you're crisp and all that stuff. But the agency work is the highest paying work that we do. So it demands probably the most amount of labor, right? But
what's the percentage breakdown between direct to client and agency work for you?
Almost right down the middle, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty high. Like normally a lot of people we've spoken to, I think it was under 10%. For us, I think we're down to maybe 2% for that. Very little.
Under 10% for agencies?
Under 10% of their work is agency work.
I think it varies though. Like I think because I know some companies here in Toronto that are also trying to set themselves up as only agency partners. So there are some that are trying to kind of go with that.
That's like a model that they're building around. Yeah.
Yeah. I've noticed that, which it can work potentially, but I feel like that will also be like a slow burn. Being able to talk to clients directly gives you potential for more longevity. That way you're also not relying on agencies as well. Because if you're relying a lot on agency work, if for example that agency doesn't have any clients coming for you, where is your next work going to be coming in? And if there's only 2 agencies in your city, you're kind of limited at that point.
That's why he's stuck with a smaller skeletal team, right? Because then
Exactly,
he can adjust
exactly.
easily. There we go. Yeah.
We rely on a very small core team here full time, but then like 90% of the work we freelance out now. Yeah. And it seems to be getting easier and easier.
Yeah.
There seems to be more freelancers flooding into the market. People want more flexibility with their work. They want more, diversity in the type of.
It pays more for them too, right? I mean, it pays to be a freelancer compared to a salaried employee. You got to have that hustle.
The challenge
to be able to do that.
The challenge comes, I find, and because
the stamina.
we do a lot of motion design work. We just got a big project for an organization called Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and they're a national organization. They go into schools and they teach kids about agriculture. Really cool organization. But they just came to us and they're like, we need an e-learning animated series done, and it's 5 episodes and each one's going to be 15 minutes long, right? And I look at that and I go, oh, wow, that's gravy train. Like, that's going to be an awesome project. And then I actually start looking at how I'm going to manage resources on that and go, oh my God, I don't have the team to handle this, right? But you got to scramble and you got to make it work. You got to build, that's the model that we've built. We've said, listen, we're just going to scale up and scale down. That's what we're going to have to do. So this is the pain of being nimble, right? It's having to scale that up and build a team around that. But when you're talking about a project that could potentially go 5-6 months, freelancers are like, what? No. That's not how I work. It's like, you give me the project, I do the project, right? You'd think that a lot of freelancers would be licking their chops at a project like that, but they're like, well, I do work for 20 different clients. I can't just commit all my time to you. So there's challenges that happen with that, right?
Right, yeah. Right. So what do you do in that case? Like, how do you handle a situation? Can you even take a project on like that?
Take it and you just make it work, baby.
You just make it work.
You just make it work, baby. That's what I just say
figure it out.
My senior producer that works with me. I'm like, hey, we are producers.
Well, he's a motion designer. He's got that background. So worst case,
and
he
that's
goes to
a
the dungeon and
slippery
he works
slope,
for a bit.
my friend. That's a slippery slope. We don't want to do that. But you're right. You're right. I mean, just a few months ago, actually, we went through a busy time, and I'm sitting here, editing this thing, and I'm like, what? Why am I editing this thing? I should not be doing this. This is not the model, right? But yeah.
We have a couple projects coming up, and they're the timeline is a little intense. It's these quarterly videos, but the due date is like a couple days later. And we tried to cover our asses with this one, and we pitched to the client. We're like, look, just in case one of the editors ends up with COVID, let's have a backup guy just in case, right? And they bought it. We're like, okay, thank God. And then we're like, we'll also get them to help out somehow with the thing, like, because we're paying for them to be on on the bleachers for a second, so the bench warmer.
Yeah, I think that was probably the first time that I'd ever realized that someone has tried to. I mean, they probably do this in other companies have probably done this, to have editors on standby. Usually, you have shooters on standby, but no one's ever said, "Can I get an editor on standby?"
Hey, if you know a guy that wants to be a standby editor, you let me know, because that would be lovely to have.
No, I mean, we're gonna pay them, because I was like, they're not gonna do it for free. They might get busy.
So you're gonna actually pay him and keep him on, like keep him paying just to make sure he's there. Oh yeah. It might not. It might be. I mean, we haven't done we've sold it to the client, the idea, and then I just gotta ask and see how much it would cost, because it's like it'll be a couple of days. Like, it's like, look, worst case, you get involved, and then I'll pay you the full rate for that project. But the best case, you don't, and you make half of what you would make on that. So it's like, do you want to take it on? It's like guaranteed work. Like, hey, that's actually that's a good way of thinking about that. I've learned something here today.
Yeah, because we were thinking about. Yeah, I was talking to Kyrill. I'm like, Kyrill, you know what? We got really lucky last year when we did it, because it was a 4-hour quarterly video, or AGM. It was 4 hours, right? And
yeah.
We delivered it in like under a week, and I was like, "Oh my!" And they needed a major revision halfway through the week, so that took even longer to implement. But I was like, Kyrill, imagine if, God forbid, our editor caught COVID. What the hell would we have done? We would have had to do it, right? To find someone that last minute, and we're a little rusty with the editing too.
This was an AGM, like an all-day thing that you recorded, and you had to package it all up.
So it was like a 4-hour thing, and then they wanted the full thing. And like our editor is good for it. We have a couple editors that can do it as well, but we used our primary. But this year, we even told the client, we're like, look, people get sick so randomly nowadays. Why take a chance? It's gonna make everyone look bad because we're gonna miss that deadline. And they're like, yeah, you're right.
Especially with those types of projects where if there needs to be like a next day edit or a same day or something where they need within a few days, that's very time sensitive. When you have projects that, for example, you have like 2 weeks for a rough draft delivery, then a week for a fine cut, and then another week for the actual full one, there is some flexibility. If someone gets sick for a few days, the time has been built in there so that, we can still do things properly for the client, right? But as Dario pointed out,
nowadays,
things happen. You never know what happens. It's not just COVID.
Yeah.
People get sick for anything.
It's so common for people to call in sick now for all sorts of reasons. Yeah. Have you guys interviewed anybody about like differentiating at all as a production company?
Do you mean like adding,
like niching down?
How to differentiate yourself in your market? Because like, okay, so how many production companies are, maybe 2, 3, 4 person companies are in Toronto? Like 100?
Probably thousands.
Not thousands, Kyrill. It's not
thousands.
It's not
There's
thousands.
thousands.
It's
lots though. There's lots. So how do you?
8,000.
No, it's not.
So
there's lots. There's lots.
It's like, how do you? It's frustrating because how do you stand out?
What we did was, I knew our quality was good, and we just focused more on marketing ourselves, like focused on SEO, and that helped us climb the ranks. It brought more inbound leads, and then this year we have a bunch of content marketing that we have planned. But in terms of standing out, you do that based on the quality of your work and also how we publicize yourself online, I guess. Like it depends. Like, if you want to do say like, okay, we focus more on like car commercials or whatever, then obviously that's different. You're niching down on your thing and you could specialize in that. But if you're kind of like us, where it's more general stuff, you just do it based on your popularity, I guess. You get to a certain point where you get comfortable with the amount of work that's coming in anyway, so it doesn't really matter after a certain point. Like I know a lot of the top companies that we brought on board for the Toronto scene, at least, they're all pretty comfortable. They're bringing in enough work where it's like they're fine. They're doing fantastic.
They don't even really need to think. They don't even really need to think about branding or differentiation at that point, because you're happy.
Not really. No. And again, like you're always going to get a certain amount of clients or leads that you get along with anyways, and a certain amount that you're not going to get along, and those ones will probably go to the next company and they'll get along with them. So
that's such an interesting thing to hear, because that clearly that's a result of your market, because you have so much competition there. It's just a totally different world where in a smaller city where there's only so many eyeballs, it's pretty easy to get known here, right? So our challenge is a little different. Yeah.
You guys pretty much nailed it on the head earlier. You answered your own question, where how do you differentiate yourself from all the other companies around you? It's you yourself as the expert, because your experiences are unique to you and how you approach a business problem for a client or a challenge, and how to solve it. The next company might have very similar service offerings, but the way you do it is not going to be the same way they do it. So that's
even if it is, like, it's just a lot of our work is person to person. So they might just click better with you than with the other person, or they might not click with you at all, but they might click with the other person, even though you might be better, right?
Totally.
It's a lot of human dynamics at the end of the day, right?
The human element is so key. It's the human co-element, right?
It's the second time.
That human element is always going to be, at the end of the day, the ultimate differentiating factor. You can have everything else done right, but if the client or the lead does not connect with you or does not like you, you could be Spielberg, but if you don't like Spielberg, they're not going to work with Spielberg.
Obviously, word of mouth is huge for us. It's been huge for us, and just the experience. I think really concentrating on the experience that your clients have, from sales to product delivery to final video delivery, is a great experience. It was positive. It's something they remembered. As long as you focus really, really hard on that and don't take it for granted. I have never ever taken that for granted, and it's been one of the successes that we've had. And we get calls all the time from other like from new clients that say, listen, we had this really bad experience. this is what it was like. We don't want that to happen again. And that's interesting. And we go, okay, absolutely here. And then I lay out how it's all going to go. It's interesting how much business we actually get that way. But I think that, that's to highlight that is like experience everything that you do, every touch point, every time the client has an interaction with you, it should feel good and positive and organized. You know what I mean? And in a way, like you were saying, you're branding yourself through that because other people are going to tell that story. Oh, you guys were doing a video? Where'd you guys get your video done? Oh, this company did it. They were awesome. This is what they were like. You want your clients to tell those stories, right? And those stories spread like that. And one thing that we haven't done a very good job at is promoting ourselves. And like I don't do a whole lot of this.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is if you wanna, you said, how do I differentiate myself in a smaller market?
Do more content, right?
There's the internal stuff where it's like, with your inbound clients and everything, you can provide the experience, and then that brings on more referral business. But like, you got to view yourself like you view your client in a way, right? If they come to you and say, I need to differentiate myself, it's like, okay, well, are you doing any video content? How are you marketing your stuff? You got to treat yourself like a client in a way and kind of see what works out well for you, right? Like that's kind of what we focused on a bit. We haven't done too much of it, unfortunately, but this year we're hoping to change that a bit. But yeah, like it's there's a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, I think number one thing for us has obviously been SEO. That's helped us a ton.
Wow, that's crazy. Wow. I don't know much about that.
It's basically just helping yourself rank higher on Google, because if you think about it, you got to think about the lead's journey. How do they usually find companies? And it's usually by Google, right? Google or Bing or whatever the hell they use. And then searching certain key search words. And then from there, it depends on how well you rank. Like if you're on the first page for most of the key search terms, chances are like you don't need to do too much marketing on other areas, right? Like you don't need to market yourself too much on LinkedIn. Obviously, it's very helpful, right? But if you're getting enough incoming leads from Google where you're busy enough, then sure, you can kind of just focus on that a bit more and not worry about it because the money's coming in, right?
In our market, it was just different. Like it's so much like one-to-one, like competition, right? Like either, it's your competition or you, and it comes down to, well, who are we going to go with, right? And I've thought a lot about how to solve that problem in a small market like this. And one of the things that I did during the pandemic, actually, this was a branding exercise that we did. There's a agency out of the States. They're called Strawberry Frog. Have you ever heard of them?
What do they do?
An advertising agency, marketing agency, just like any other. But the way they've differentiated themselves, you might have seen this with some other companies, is they focus on purpose-driven brands. Purpose-driven. So what I mean by purpose-driven? Purpose, any corporate company can be a purpose-driven organization, right? Whether that's a not-for-profit or just having a higher purpose. They brand themselves and they see themselves as a company that has a higher purpose. All their employees buy into that higher purpose, right? And Strawberry Frog made a conscious decision. They were probably one of the ones that first did this in the whole industry, is that we said that we are only going to do this type of work. We're only going to be doing purpose-driven work, right? And as the purpose-driven sort of culture phenomenon came and made its way through business and industry in the States, they were the ones that were connecting with those clients on that level. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that here in Winnipeg. So when you go to our website, I don't really say video anywhere, really. I think maybe it's like a couple small prints in there. I actually say that we do video. But what I do say on there is, I think it's, I have to remember it now. Strategic storytelling. What is it again?
It's storytelling for groundbreakers and then movement makers. You have it alternating.
We are a strategic storytelling partner for purpose-driven brands and organizations. I think that's what it is. Yeah. So I really market us as, yes, we do video, but we also do motion graphics. We also can do print, like assets that might go along with that, or or things like that, right? So we're kind of like bridging digital agency a little bit, but more just on the content creation side, right? Creative development. But yeah, when I have a conversation with a client and they're like, oh, we heard you do video. I'm like, yes, but actually this is what we are. And when you're when you're changing the conversation, you're starting to look different, right? One video production company that you're dealing with, yeah, we do video and production. And they talk about all production, everything technical, right? I don't talk about anything technical with the client. First off, actually, throughout the whole process, I barely talk about technical. It's really about creative approach. It's about understanding what their goals are. You know, it's saying like, yes, I'm a video producer, but I'm also a storyteller. I'm also a writer. I consider myself a pretty accomplished writer, and all those things come together into the value conversation of what we're going to provide back. So when you're talking about all that stuff, and your competition is talking about, yeah, we schedule shoots and we shoot, we edit, we make motion graphics. That's also a really, really good way to differentiate yourself in the sales process, but also on a wider level, just like on your website and how people talk to you. So that's one thing that I've worked really hard at in differentiating us, just changing the conversation, and I think it's worked. I think it's worked really well for us.
That's a great way to do it.
We have a similar thing. We focus more so on. I mean, I think it's identical. We just phrased it differently. When we do it, we talk about how we like to get involved more so on like the strategy side. We want to know exactly what they have planned for their whole marketing campaign and how this piece fits into that part of their vision. And then we've started doing that since 2021, and the reception to that type of approach has been really good. So yeah, we pitch strategic video as well, but we're also very limited in how far we get along with that. So we also let them know, it's like, listen, it's like, we're giving you the gas for the car.
Yeah.
But like ultimately it's, you have to drive it, right?
I think the best analogy is bringing a horse to water, but they have to drink the water.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe this is just the experience that I've had, just like writing and, you know, doing a lot of reading too, is just having an intuition of how an audience will perceive something or how someone will react to something is sometimes what we do is such an emotional response, right? And I think coming at it from that angle where you're maybe, you know, there's a lot of government organizations we work with and, you know, they want to do a video, right? And it's the classic, you know, our marketing person wrote a script, we want to create this, you know, and I take the script and I go, wow, this is a brochure. You wrote a brochure.
So good.
Awesome. So we want to make our brochure into a video. They're like, yeah, we want to do that. I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. We don't do that. Like, we can take this concept and shape it into a creative approach that has true storytelling in it, that resonates with an audience, that people can latch on to, and, you know, and it's emotional, right? And when you start explaining those types of things, then they start going, oh yeah, okay. It's like that makes sense, because, you know, who wants to sit there and watch, like, you know, a 30-minute, you know, brochure video where it's just, you know, and so you guys do that a lot too? Like, do you deal with that a lot?
We deal with similar things. I was actually talking to Kyrill about this the other week, about how we pitch ourselves as being creatives, but at the end of the day, what we do is so technical. Because if you think about it, when you're producing a video, there's very little creativity actually put into it. There's more technical stuff you do into it, down to like, okay, so let's say you got to create the script for it. When you're creating the script, it's like, okay, I got to hit these
messages,
points.
Key messages, yeah.
I got to fit them. I got to fit these key messages in there. Now I also have to figure out roughly what the script is going to be, even though we do a lot of interview-based format. But then you got to know, okay, I got to have them answer it in this type of format. Then how long should that answer be? So you break everything down, because it's like the video, by the time they see like the storyboard and the script, you have everything timed down to the second. And it's actually really interesting when you break that down to the client, when they go like, okay, we need all these key messages and this is the script. And you're like, you know what? Great. But one big problem. That script is 20 minutes and this video is 2 minutes. How do I know? I timed it out.
Yeah.
Let's do it together. Let's sit down and read it out
Yeah.
loud. And you know what? We got to have like breaks in between. We can't just, it's not like a drug ad where like, at the end you got the disclaimer that you try to feed everything into 2 seconds, right? You got to have a little breathing room too.
See, the real creativity, like one of the big parts of the creative process is figuring out your how should we say dimensions and limitations, and being creative on how to maximize it. So like, for example, if you're given a deliverable that you need to do something in a minute, the creative, you can have the most insane idea, but you have to be able to quantify it and break it down into that specific dimension of 1 minute. How will it work? How will it look? How will it work? And that's when you're like, that's creative, technical, being technically creative. That's probably the best way to put what you were saying, Dario, is that it's not that you're not being creative and being technical. It's like how you are adjusting your creativity for that particular project.
And, being able to navigate that with the client, and, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of the clients nowadays there's so much video and there's so much work out there. And a lot of times they'll look at something, or they'll look at a competition, something that their competition did, and bring it to you, and you go, "We need to do a video like this." Right? Oh, awesome. Okay, so what's it all going to be about? What's your key messages? Like, what are you trying to do? What's your goals? Everything like that. And they come to you with, the brochure that the marketing person wrote, that they pulled from the website probably, and from some other brochures and things like that, and they give you this briefing document. And you're like, yeah, we can't do that. So you have to, but I think it's like, this goes back to that sort of really getting good at being charismatic and understanding how to shift the conversation in a really soft way, in a nurturing way that gets them to do what you need them to do, basically, right? It's like, you guys have a $20,000 budget for this. That's all you've got. We can't do a 20-minute video, so let's look at our constraints, right? This is your, you want a 2-minute commercial, right? So maybe, doing 16 interviews, with your employees is probably not the best idea. Let's just do it with a voiceover or something, right? And I think like getting really, really good at that, I think is like, can be such a huge benefit to your business, like in sustainability.
And it opens so many doors.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's all about,
even with the budget, because I find that a lot of the times when they come to us and they say, because we have the budget options on our contact form, right? So I kind of know right away what I'm dealing with.
Do you guys do that where you're like, it's completely transparent pricing? Is that how you guys work?
No. So
okay.
What their budget ranges are. So like if they're getting in touch with us, I would like, one of the prompts is like, what is your budget? And ours starts from 5 to 75, and it goes up in $2,500 increments, and then past a certain point, $5,000 increments. And then I always make sure to like confirm what their budget is, because sometimes they just randomly select it, and then you find out it's a lot lower, and you're like, well, I got to cut this call then,
Yeah.
But I always find that if you are presenting yourself as that type of, if you're a good producer and you explain the situation correctly to them, you'll be able to get more budget out of them. And I'm not saying that in a way where like you're gonna squeeze them for every penny they got type of thing. No, it's like more so in terms of like what they want and what the value they're
getting.
Because like the way we do it, I even let them know up front. It's like, these are my costs. Like I could probably milk you for more, but why do that, right? Like we've already established this is what
Dario,
we
he's the nice guy. Dario's the nice guy.
I do the good cop approach.
That's smart. That's smart. Yeah.
But then I let them know, it's like, if you guys want to do a little bit extra, like we can also add this in and that in, and then we can go to that level and do that. I'm actually wondering, do you offer like, because I've been thinking about maybe offering pricing packages like a standard option, but then we could go the extra mile with this, and then we can really go out with that one, right? Have you tried that out?
I haven't, but when we're working with some of the budgets that we're working with, it can just be a really slippery slope, right? Like it's like, you promise something for that, and then you end up getting into the project and it's like, oh my God, this is like way more. I actually find, but you know what? On the other side, I mean, it's weird, ebbs and flows, right? Like some clients are responsive to higher budgets. Some aren't. Some are respond okay to, say, having a contingency. Have you ever done the contingency idea? The contingency budget? Oh, okay, this is a little strategy. I'll get into that with you right now if you want. So
okay, cool.
So if I know it's a fairly larger client, and I know they have money, and these are projects like $40,000 plus, let's say, right in that window. I'll put in I'll say, okay, you really want to be at this number. I know you really want to be at 45K on this, but I know in my head that this is going to be a lot. It could be a lot more work, and we could go over on this
if something goes wrong.
Anything, right? Maybe they change their mind, or you end up getting into too many revisions, past your revision rounds, and things like that. So what I do is I build in I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to promise you this, but because we're so unsure about this, we're going to build in what's called the contingency budget. And that contingency budget is something that you commit to up front, and that's a $15,000 contingency budget. Our goal, though, please know that our goal is to not go into this. I don't think we're going to have to go into this, right? But if we do, we need that pre-approved. How's that sound?
Oh, that is good.
And what it does is it gives something for the marketing manager or whoever's dealing with that to go back to the finance people and go, listen, to have at least it's a driver of a conversation that they can actually have. 9 times out of 10 that I've offered that, if I get it right with the size of the client, they're like, yeah, absolutely, let's do that. That's fair, right? Because it's like anything, like it's like architects, right? That's actually where I got it from. I think it was an architect podcast, and they were saying like we're building a bridge here, but we don't know like fluctuations in concrete and metal and stuff like that. How do we guess this stuff, right? So they put in contingency budgets, and you just have to be, as a business, you have to be fair with it. And I think as you're going through the process, you're informing your client of the process. Things are going great. And in the background, you're probably coming under budget, right? If you're coming under budget, be honest and don't charge them. But if you're creeping up close to that budget and you're like, holy man, we've spent too much time on this, as long as you've informed the client in the project management process all the way, how things are going, where things have bloated, where things haven't, and you need to go into it at that point, and there's no surprises because the budget's approved. They've been constantly updated throughout the whole project. What you don't want to do is like go through the whole thing and say, oh, we're charging you the 15 grand. That's not cool. They're not going to like that, right? It just seems like at that point, they feel like they're gouged. So do the contingency budget, work it in as a strategy, but be honest with it. Because again, going back to that experience,
I really like
always
that
going
idea.
back to that experience that you have with your clients. Don't create a bad experience by gouging, right? So that's the sort of happy medium. But anyway, in things, it's a good strategy because in what we do, what it's like, right? Like things can kind of go awry pretty quick.
I'm telling you right now, I'm taking that one and using it because you don't even need to do it for projects of that size. You could do it for any project, even if it's like something like we have a lot of projects that are in the 8K range. Even if we just tell them, hey, let's set like a $500 to $1,000 contingency budget, just in case something happened. You know what? We decide last minute, let's bring on a makeup artist or something.
Absolutely.
Things happen. Great. Now it's like, it's fine. Yep. It's like you said, they're committed to it. But if we don't go through it, great. We don't go through it. It's great.
You're managing expectations. And that's the brilliant thing that you've done is that you figured out a way to more strategically manage people's expectations, because there's nothing worse that you commit to a budget that you've pre-approved with the client and then something unforeseen comes through. You can't really, like, at least on your end, you can't really tell them it's like, hey, this is gonna, if you want to do this now, it's gonna actually have to cost another $2,000-$3,000.
Clients hate that.
Like say $10,000 project. That's a 20-30% increase. No one wants to have that conversation. And with that or like if you do have to do it and the client agrees and is willing to do it, to your point, they now have to go through the process of getting it pre-approved again, which delays the project, which is another big thing. And the one thing that your leads and your clients are always going to value above anything is time, not just the money, but the time. If they have something set in their marketing calendars on when they're going to get certain deliverables, they want everyone to stick to that. Because if you keep delaying
Absolutely.
then they're, like you said, it's going to be a bad experience.
Yeah. So, again, I think a lot of this conversation that we've had today really comes back to that experience, right? What are the mechanisms as you're going through the process with the client that's going to make the experience fluid and make it feel like it was a positive and honest exchange of services, right? And setting all that stuff up front is so key. The other thing is, are we running out of time, or can I add?
No, that was really good. If you got more like that up your sleeve, feel free to toss them into the combo.
I gotta be honest. You guys check out Blair Enz's stuff. The two Bobs.
Yeah. No. We listened. That's amazing.
And so he's got something called, which is really interesting. Do you guys ever deal with the whole proposal thing? We want a proposal.
A little bit.
We want a proposal.
Very little.
Well, Blair Enns is awesome because he's shaped this whole thing. Yeah. Oh, this was with Chris. I forget what his name is. But anyway, so yeah, he basically says, well, we're not really, the conversation goes, well, we're not really in the business of writing proposals, but maybe we could, have an agreement in principle, and then maybe we can move on to the proposal stage, right? So how do you get out of the proposal writing, oh my God, I got 6 proposals to write and this is all I can do, and none of this is guaranteed work, right? I mean, it takes time, right? It takes time.
So what we do is because I know exactly the situation you're talking about, where a client asks you for a proposal, so you come up with this whole creative, and you develop a budget, everything. Yeah. So what Dario and I do differently is that we basically just simply go over what their needs are and what we will do for them, and see and have them sign off on that. We don't do any creative until a project is actually moving forward. And this is one of the ways that we filter leads out. So for example, a client will come to us and Dario or myself will hop on a call with them, go through our checklist of questions of trying to figure out what they want to do. And then we have a follow-up call with them and we just go over everything they've talked to us about, what their budget is, say, this is the video we're going to create for you based on these examples, or something like that. It's very basic.
Oh man, we should do a role-playing thing. You guys ever do the role-playing thing?
No, we haven't.
That could be another piece of content for Creatives Grab Coffee.
I'll be the client from a 1,000-person company, right? Okay, that's all great and all, but I have to field this. I need a proposal from you guys because I have to field this out to 3 different departments, and they all have to meet, and they have to meet on that proposal to make sure that the price is right and the services are right, and then we'll get back to you guys. So can you guys put together a proposal for us?
So here's the beautiful thing. This second call that we're doing we're putting it in a document form. So that's something that they can take and hand out to other departments in there. And it's basically a step-by-step of what's going to happen. And a lot of this document is already pre-made. We do this for a lot of our leads as they come through, and we just change a lot of the project details.
Are you asking? Sorry, Adam, are you asking if we give a lot of our creative ideas within this document? This is the types of songs we're going to use for this?
No, it's you can quickly get pulled into writing big bloated proposals.
Oh no, we don't do any of that. We don't do any of that at all.
I guess where you guys have done a really good job at is that if they demand a certain thing and it doesn't meet what your criteria is for that sales process, then you'll walk away, right? See, this is the catch, is that a lot of companies aren't in a position to go, okay, we don't work that way. We're okay. You're not the right client for us. We're going to walk away. Some people need that business, right? So it's really hard not to get pulled in, because the client is demanding this is a situation where the client would be demanding something really specific. Okay, we need an intro. We need to know kind of what your general approach is going to be to this. We need to know how many people are going to be on this project. We need you to outline all of the freelancers, right?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they have what's called a standard form proposal, an RFP that they send you. and you have to respond to that RFP, right? Your system doesn't matter to them. Your system doesn't matter to them, right?
So for that, we've only gotten, from what I remember, we've just gotten one like that. We don't get like the RFPs we get. They don't get the ones we've gotten, at least. I mean, again, we don't get that many RFPs to begin with. We're starting to get a little more this year, actually. But
as you grow, oh yeah,
you'll
the
get more.
more you grow, and the bigger clients that you get, the more you're going to get dragged into that proposal writing stage, right? And so,
I don't know what the solution for that is, because
the way Blair Enns like handles that is he basically just comes out and says, first of all, you have to have the nards to walk away. You have to walk away. And the way you guys have formulated your process, that's really awesome that you said, listen, we do this all the time. This is how we work. And if the client says, well, no, I don't care how you work. If you want the job, you have to do this. Well, then you have to be prepared to walk away. But
that particular episode, I listened to it, and he basically said most of the time you're going to lose that battle. And also, there was an interesting episode they did on the RFPs where they basically said the dirty little secret is that most of the people sending out those RFPs already know who they're going to choose.
Oh yeah, and we get dragged into that all the time
so,
because we do a lot of government work here, right? And so and the government work is the worst for the RFPs because it's like you absolutely have to do it. There's no, if you want the business. Yeah.
They want to know your firstborn child's name. They want to know who you're going to marry in 5 years.
Yeah. So Blair Enns, I think what he says is one of the techniques is he goes in and he says is like, why don't we just talk about this first and just have what he calls an agreement in principle. So we're going to have an agreement in principle of this is what the budget is going to be. This is generally what we're going to do. We're not going to, right? Okay. So you take that back to all your departments, circulate all that information, and then you get back to me. And I think that's brilliant because now you've given them a solution, but you've shedded all that potential work that you would have to do for no guaranteed work. Now, when they come back to you, they've done all that circulation and all that bureaucracy that all that information has to go through. And they've come back to you and said, okay, I think we're ready to go. Now you put together a proposal. The chances of you getting that proposal and winning that project now has just shot up like by 80%. So it's kind of, it's interesting.
So one of the things I wanted to just quickly touch upon, Adam, is like how you were saying some of those leads, when they're asking for a proposal and you tell them your process, and if they say, oh, I don't really care about your process, that shows that shows disrespect right there, in terms of the fact that where if you don't respect how I work, why should I respect how you work? And that goes back to your point where you have to be willing to walk away at that point. Because if you immediately on the onset say, okay, I'm going to abandon everything I've done for the last 10 years of my life just to make you happy, just in terms of the process, then that relationship is not going to start off on a good point, off on a good foot. And sometimes when you're creating proposals with very little information for clients, you're almost doing a disservice to them as well, because you don't have all the information. You don't know what is the potential. You don't know what their strategy is. So how can you propose an entire idea when it's not 100% applicable to their situation?
Are you getting that type of resistance? I get it for RFPs, it's just the nature of the beast, but are you getting that with with your direct clients as well, or just with RFPs?
No. That's specifically an RFP issue. Yeah,
it's a specific.
And
that's what I figured.
honestly, it has more to do with larger organizations that have a lot of bureaucracy and government contracts. But here's kind of an interesting take on that, though. It's like, it's all easy and all to just kind of say, well, you have to be willing to walk away, right? Well, when you've got 10 employees and maybe you had a couple slow months, right? And you got to make payroll, and your payroll is like, $30,000 to whatever $1,000 a month, and you're like, we need to get a contract in here. That's a very different mindset if you think about it. Now, when you're sitting there and you have a few, if you're the only people working in the company and it's just like, hey, we got cash flow. I know I can pay myself for a year out from now. Yeah, awesome. I can say no to that. But when you're starting to grow a company and you're starting to get bigger, those decisions you have to start making and some of the sacrifices that you have to make to get that business becomes a very different conversation. And trust me, I've been there.
But I'm assuming at that point, I'm assuming you have employees that would work on that anyway, so it wouldn't really make too much of a dent on you in time.
Well, not to me personally, but now everything costs money. Remember, I can have a project manager work on a proposal for 2 weeks that takes her off of all this other stuff that she should be doing.
Yeah, you're right.
So
yeah, I didn't think about that.
But that's the flip side right there. It's that you have to know when to also put your effort in. If you know RFPs that 95% of the time you're not going to get the job because they usually have someone already picked out. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, I'm having a little bit of a slow month. How am I going to make payroll? How detrimental will it be to your business if you spend 2 to 3 weeks on a proposal, send it in, that's not going to go anywhere? You might as well use that 2 to 3 weeks in time to drum up actual business that will be coming in. So like with RFPs, it's one of those things where the only time Dario and I really dive into them is if we have the time to do them. And if they're not asking for too much, because unfortunately, a lot of RFPs, they're just not worth it.
We had one that was asking, we had one that was asking for a ton of stuff, and I was like, Kyrill, I'm not in the mood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know, and I agreed. I'm like, I was trying to look through this RFP, like, and I'm like, why does this company need to know the backstory of our grip
oh my God,
or
that's
the
way too much
backstory
information.
of our audio operator, how they got into the industry, like. I'm like, I don't know who's going to be picked 3 months from now.
You could just write back, you're not getting that.
Adam, you said like, if it's a slow month and you have like, a big company and you haven't been getting a lot of work, I think that's a good time to question why you're at that stage.
Yeah.
Rather than, because it seems like if you're really banking on, we're gonna do that RFP and it's gonna save the company, that really does sound like a last ditch effort. And if you're relying on that, you screw it up probably 6 months.
Oh
to 12
yeah,
months
and I
earlier.
mean, I'm not talking extremes like, hey, oh my God, I got to take this because my whole business is going to go under, right? I think it's more about just building, just sustainability into a pretty large organization that you've built, right? And then you have a lot of people to pay, right? And just when you're in sales and you get to that level, it almost turns into more about like, we just need we need projects in the bucket. Fill the bucket, right? But I think it's a great point. I mean, it's a slippery slope, and it's just something that, I have really struggled with. It's something that I have struggled with because, when you get, as an organization of our size, if you get a project that's $70,000, that's a big deal, right? And so you really have to kind of weigh out like what it's worth and everything like that. It's an ongoing struggle and conversation with marketing agencies and organizations like us as we grow, right? I think I've done a ton of reading, and this is where I've just dove into Blair Enns because he specifically consults with agencies, like larger agencies, on how to deal with all of this stuff.
Creative
but there's
agencies.
so much to learn from all that stuff that can trickle down into what we do. It's so on the business side. It's really good.
One benefit of the RFP, I would say, is probably that it can help you fine tune your sales process as a whole, right? Because I remember when we worked on an RFP for FedEx, and we didn't get it, but I even followed up with them afterwards to say, we even followed up. I was like, I'm just curious, were we on the right track at least at the RFP? And they're like, oh yeah, it was down to you and another company. I'm like, okay, Kyrill, we'll apply that template.
So close. We were so
like,
close.
We'll apply that template to like the rest of our sales process, right? Because I was like, okay, I guess we were on the right track. We just missed out. Maybe it was budget or whatever, but it helps fine tune.
You have to keep improving.
It helped fine tune our actual sales sales funnel or sales process. It helped fine tune that a bit. So we just applied that template to our other sales documents, and it's going.
I think one of the coolest things that I've learned as I've grown the company and moved naturally from a technical person into basically that's all I'm doing is like producing and sales, right? I think that have you listened to much of Chris Doe's stuff?
Yeah, a ton.
Yeah,
a
the
ton.
future.
His role playing stuff is just that stuff is just next level. It's just so awesome to do role playing.
He's so calm. He's always he never gets emotional when he talks to anyone. And that's how you have to be with the business as well. It's like, it's like, okay, just be reasonable, be logical.
But just that, like, I find I learned a lot through that role playing stuff, because you're like, oh my God, I've been in that exact conversation, and I had no idea, and I said this, and I ended up doing way too much work, right? And yeah, so that I really like his stuff, especially when it comes to sales and creative, like selling creative services. It's really, really good.
Have you thought about joining his group?
I have, and it's just. I mean, you guys probably agree. It's time, right? I find that the older I get, and the longer I keep doing this, I have a family now. I'm married, I have a mortgage, all that stuff. Time constantly becomes my number one priority.
In currency.
Yeah. And even money takes a back seat to time now, right? Like I ended up buying this. We moved our studio from the Exchange District in 2019. I ended up buying an infill property, and I moved my whole studio. I wanted that sort of like house vibe to a studio. And, I bought it personally and everything like that. And I totally forgot. Where was I going with that? Time. Sorry. Time and money.
Time is key.
So I moved the studio, and I it snows here in Winnipeg. Have you heard that?
I think I've heard a thing or two about that.
I had no idea.
We also get really cold, and I have two houses, so they're like 15 minutes apart, which is awesome. But when we'd get a huge dump, I was like, snow blowing my front yard, and then like coming here and having to like clear this house. And I was like, but by the time I get to work, like actually get to work, it's like 1, and I'm like sweating and all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't handle this. Like, I'm running a business here. So
you bought a house?
I did, yeah.
You bought instead of you moved from. We were talking about that.
That's our idea
too.
Just to cap that off is So what I did is I just hired a company, and they just manage they manage the landscaping. They manage in the summer. They come here and they do all the snow removal and everything like that. And I'm like, that's super expensive, but that was the smartest decision I ever made.
We're gonna do that
because time all of a sudden, also cleaning, right? Me and my wife were like, no, we're just gonna hire a cleaning person. They're gonna do both houses, and we'll never have to clean our house again. And yeah, it's super expensive, but you wouldn't believe the time that I saved on that.
Well, it's the time that you like you, as you mentioned, like if you're spending all that time just shoveling snow,
you're not doing your work.
Yeah, that's the only thing you're doing that day. But there's also other maintenance for these houses, so that might take time as well. And that day of work that you could have spent bringing in new business,
makes so much more sense, right? So sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to ask about the house?
No, we had the exact same idea.
Oh, you should do it.
It's great to see that you did that. So, do you have your employees go work?
It's just more expensive.
Yeah, here in Toronto.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So your employees, like, they work out of the same. Like, you got how big is the place?
I'm gonna say like 1,700 square feet, but it looks like a duplex. It's a 2-story. It's a 2-story. So upstairs I converted all the bedrooms to like edit suites. I have floating desks in there, and I had it all really, really, really well done. That's
exactly our idea. That was our plan for like the next five or so.
So
years.
The way I manage that is like, so I was talking to my accountant about it and how am I going to manage this? Because I was like, okay, the business will buy it and things like that. So it's a little bit different with a partnership, but because I own the company, me and my wife just purchased this house as a second house, and then we rent it to the business. So the business pays the mortgage. The business gets the write-off, right, of the rent, and I get a property that's getting paid for through the business that I can flip when I retire. Because as video creators, as you know, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a pension.
We don't have a retirement package.
We don't have pensions.
You're incorporated, obviously,
yeah,
right?
We're incorporated. Yeah, we incorporated
right?
At the beginning.
Yeah, we just incorporated last week, but our plan was to buy it through the incorporation. Was that not a better idea for you?
Well, it could be. And again, I'm not an accountant, but your accountant will definitely like talk to you about that. Like, so with a partnership, it's a little bit different, right? If you're a 50-50 split partnership, it's very different. Where you'll probably want to buy it through the corporation, then the property then is looped into the assets of the company, and all of a sudden your company's worth more, right? So the benefit of that is that if you want to go flip that, right? Say you want to go sell your company, it's like, hey, we have all this gear, but we also have this property. It actually makes it a lot more appealing.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay. The only downside I can think of is you have the liability, like, if business gets sued to oblivion, the house goes along with it.
That's what you got insurance for.
All right.
I've never been so overly insured in my entire life.
What are you insured for through the business?
So we have...
Because we just have the equipment insurance and the $2 million liability. That's it.
Yeah, because the house is, Dario, health insurance.
So we have employee health insurance.
Right.
So then we have like the house insurance. I have all my equipment here, which is all like, and it's in the house. So so you have to insure that. I mean, I've got life insurance on my personal side. I mean, I've got just so much goddamn insurance. I hate insurance companies. I don't need any more insurance. But I get it why you want it. It's super important. But I think it's really important as a business to weigh out your options and work with a broker. Like if you're getting to that level, like work with a broker. Yeah.
We were gonna rent a place, but then it didn't make sense because we actually spoke to one of our friends, actually previous guest, Yang from SDE. We're like, we're thinking of eventually renting out a place. It's like, why? It's like you'll be spending like 70 to 90K on a place. Like you might as well just buy it. And I was like, oh, that's not
buy
not
it,
a bad
or
idea.
a lot of companies like in 2019, we had everybody in our studio, it was a large space down in the Exchange District. We had everybody coming there, and then 2019, everyone went home anyways, right? So I was like, all right, this is just going to the way. I'm just going to do it this way. Everyone's just going to work remotely. I'm going to have this. And so I do have some edit suites if people want to come here. Like we meet here for creative meetings. Like I have a really nice setup here, a nice boardroom table where we can have meetings, get together, and we can cook meals and things like that. And it's more of like an add-on, like for morale and things like that, right? Just to get together every once in a while. But I find with what we do that nowadays, I mean, I'm doing 95% of my sales like this. I mean, I bet you guys are probably doing the same thing.
We're doing 100% of our sales like this. No, we're doing 100%.
People don't really want to do business that way, I find. They don't even want to meet. They don't want to meet in person. It's just too much of a pain in the ass. So.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. Yeah, everyone's busy. Hey, with employees though, how because it is mostly remote, how are you keeping employee morale up, or keeping that sense of like loyalty, but also like mentorship and everything else? Because if they are mostly remote, like what are you doing on that?
Well,
end?
so we we have a small internal team of people, and then so the way we nurture those people is we hire younger talent, like the senior producer Brian that works for me. He's more my age, but we have a graphic designer and we have a motion designer, and what we try to do is we provide as much training as they want to expand their skill set, completely covered. So if we hire a new motion designer, on their contract is, if you want to go through School of Motion, you guys know School of Motion? You ever heard of that?
No.
School of Motion in the States, it's a really, really cool online course for motion designers, and just teaches them incredible stuff. Like it's like I think it's like a 3 or like a 1 month course. And we've done that with some of our other employees. We'll say, we'll pay for that. If you want to go through that, we'll give you a certain amount of time, like at work, to commit to that training, but some of it you'll have to do on your own. We kind of make a deal that way, but we completely cover the costs of all of it. So I think younger people that are getting into the industry for sure are just wanting to expand their skill set. Like they want to be mentored and things like that. So we just try to create mechanisms that with that mentorship where they're always learning, where they never stop learning. The minute where they stop learning and they start doing sort of redundant things, or it's the same amount of content. I mean, we're creative people. We didn't get into this industry to do the same thing over and over and over again, right? So so that's kind of how we do that. And we do try to get together. We try to have weekly team meetings, at least one a week, where we all get on, talk about all the projects across the board, what we're doing, what potential projects are coming up. If we're talking about one specific project, we make sure that everybody has a chance to give their opinion and speak. And I find that a lot of that type of work is really good for morale. Yeah, good for team building.
Yeah, you have to invest in your talent. You have part of investing in your business is investing in the people that you work with. And yeah, it's nothing worse than having someone where you're giving them the exact same thing to do over and over and over again without giving them the opportunity to grow and expand over time. And as you start to, that's the thing. Dario and I are already thinking about that. Even we don't even have any employees yet, and trying to think about how we could even help our freelancers in ways to give them different work as well and keep them happy, because then they'll want to keep working with us as well. It
really changes the dynamic as soon as you hire somebody. It's interesting because when we started, we were 3 people, and I was kind of the technical guy. I did the motion graphics and the editing. But man, as soon as you add someone to the mix, it's like everybody's priorities sort of shift, and you're like, oh, and you say everybody has to sort of find their own way. And I think that was one of the reasons earlier on in our business between the 3 partners that made it a little bit more difficult, is that we didn't really have a plan for when we started to grow what everybody's role was, right? And as you move forward, it's like you're stepping on each other's toes, and partnerships are I have a lot of experience in partnerships. If you guys ever want some counseling,
yeah.
You guys seem actually awesome together, and I love seeing that. I love seeing that camaraderie and just that dynamic between you guys is just amazing, because partnerships in business are work. They are real relationships. It's like being in a marriage. I mean, I was seeing my partners more than I was seeing my wife at the time, right?
Yeah, we're married, all right.
So yeah, it's interesting dynamic, but I love to see success stories of that. I love to see what you guys are doing, and it's awesome to see that.
The way you said that, it's like when you see your friends that are a couple. You guys look so great together. The way he said that, I'm like,
I mean, it's not really that far fetched, is it? I mean, when you see and communicate more with your business partner than when you do with your girlfriend or spouse or whatever. I mean. Yeah.
Everyone always says that we argue like an old married couple. Anytime they see that, it's hilarious.
That's a good sign, because old married couples have been around a long time. They've been together a long time.
That's why they're called old, not young married couples. Yeah. No, it's interesting to hear that perspective, because you don't always get a chance to wonder. It's how has this been going? But that's an interesting compliment to also say oh, you guys seem to have a good dynamic.
Absolutely.
And that's cool that's how it comes across.
There's certainly things that I miss dearly about having partners and having people on the same level of the business to be able to bounce ideas back and forth on, and to be able to have that collaboration. Because when you become a sole owner of a company, you're it. And all that disappears, and you have to make a friend of mine, as you know, Doug Darling, Tripwire Media, right? He's been really successful. He had a partnership too, and it kind of went through the same thing where he had to buy it out. And we don't get together too much, but I know that. It's tough at the top, right? When you're having to sort of make all these business decisions, everything rides on your shoulders, right? And it's not sort of spanned across other people. The pressure goes up. It's different. It's very different.
That's true.
It reminds me of Sopranos when Junior was talking about how it doesn't matter what decision you make. It's about how well you can steer the ship.
Yeah. That's very, very true.
Exactly.
Very true, yeah.
Okay, so we're at the hour and a half.
This is officially our longest.
That's awesome. Is that okay? Wait, it was your longest one yet? Is that a good thing?
No, our longest one. I think our longest one was 2 hours or something. No.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did.
Sorry, someone beat you.
No problem.
But you're the longest one.
I bet it was Doug. He likes to talk.
I will confirm after this recording and let you know if it was him.
If Doug sees this, buddy, I love you so much. I love you, Doug.
Shout out to Doug.
I think we'll bring you back on maybe closer to when we actually hire someone, because then we'll probably have like a lot more questions to ask you in terms of like the hiring process. Because I mean, right now, like one question I wanted to throw at you is like, how do you deal with like, I mean, there's probably higher turnover rates now compared to the past. So how do you deal with that as a business, right? But
yeah,
we could leave that for another time as well.
It's a whole nother conversation. I have a big rant on that. Anytime you want to get together, man, I'd be happy to share that. Yeah.
Happy to have you on, man.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, guys. If you want to check out Adam's company, his company is the Coelement, and you could find it at thecoelement.com. They're based out of Winnipeg in Manitoba. Am I correct?
Yes, the place where it snows.
Yes. It's been a while since I passed the... Yeah. It's been a while since I... Geography class.
Yeah, it's in Manitoba.
So yeah, anyways, thanks so much, Adam.
My
and
pleasure.
be sure to check out his website.
Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you.